Folks, I don't have 3 paragraphs prepared today like I did on Wednesday, but I do have some pictures of the farm, and I was told just wing it. So,
hey, can I interrupt you one time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. One thing I forgot. The break after this, am I right? The break after this, the hogs will be down here? Yeah. Eating full and everything for lunch. All right, Ryan, thank you.
Well, now I'm more interested in that hog than about what I'm about to speak about. All right, so this photo here is from May of 2015. And this is where we had done a no-till planting of corn, sunflower, soybeans, sunflower, corn. And let's see if I can. All right, this is the next spring, and you can already see some of these trees coming up. This is our first installation of what we're now doing as kind of a permaculture. So what we have are rows of rhubarb with fruit trees in the rhubarb patch. So as the fruit trees bud out and leave out in the spring, the rhubarb has already had a chance to grow. So we're in Wisconsin, and we're picking our first crop of rhubarb sometime in the last week of May or the first week of June. So these are 2 things. They're not necessarily companion crops, but they do all right together because of the seasonal difference as to when they, rhubarb's already starting to come out of the ground as soon as it's thawed. There's my lovely wife with our Icelandic sheep. This is also 2016, I believe. We don't have the sheep anymore because of issues with profitability. Sheep are cute, it's great having them around, but at some point you got to decide, is the time that you're going to invest in this particular adventure, is it worth it? So we no longer have the sheep. They were fun. They did a good job of keeping down, invasives and whatnot. This is the field that you were looking at here. So this is 2015, and this is now. So I don't know what I'm doing. So don't go home and attempt to recreate this. Say Ryan told me, okay, because I didn't know that this was going to happen. I don't know exactly how it happened, but the trees that came up in our no-till system, they populated really good. You can see that there is quite the variety where, from looking up above the drone video that was playing yesterday, that it does look more of a monoculture of mostly just box elders, but right here you can see there's birch, poplar, box elder, and probably can't see it in, where I'm standing by my feet. There's actually some red maples that are starting to come in. Here is a frontage of the road where we kept these pigs in this little pen for a year, and they turned this sod into dirt, which I know is against the 5 principles, but you do what you got to do. All right, well, and this is that same patch. So this is one spring. This is the next, well, this is actually right now. So we planted all of this spring, and this is what it looks like now. And we've gone from the just rhubarb and fruit trees. Now we've actually added, you can't quite see it, but there's oregano planted in between the rhubarb. There is elderberry planted in between the fruit trees. So now we have 2 crops of ground cover that are going to come up right away in the spring, which are your oregano and your rhubarb, which as long as you keep them harvested, they'll just keep producing. The fruit trees are later to come in. The elderberry, which is kind of invasive, but it is a native plant, that is shade tolerant. So 15 years from now, 20 years from now, as these fruit trees mature and start to shade everything out, the elderberries still should do all right, and seasonally, the rhubarb and oregano should still be able to give you a spring crop. So we're not just doubling up, we're trying to triple up, we're trying to really maximize each square foot that we have in our perennial installations. Also in that center row, we have strawberries going in. So strawberries aren't necessarily something that I want to get into. We've had strawberries, they're kind of a pain, but got some free space, put something in there, keep the ground. Not that I don't like the 5 principles, just that sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a little experimental kind of an herb patch here. We've got sorrel, we've got a bunch of different balms, and in the time that we were trying to get this herb patch going, we decided to plant basil in with our herbs. So the basil's not going to come back, and just made this really, really dense planting. And this, I believe, is actually going to be scalable for us, where we're going to be planting the sages, the balms, and the sorrel in with other crops to get them going. And the basil's not coming back next year, and then you'll have a variety of herbs. Also, there's a row of chives in there. Just off to the corner are hollyhocks and dianthus, maybe. Talk a little bit about raising chicks and hatching chickens, which are not necessarily low input because feed's expensive, but if you're hatching out your own eggs and you have a surplus of eggs, instead of just feeding them to the pigs or giving them away, you can set up your incubator and get in a rotation of hatching out your, to add a little value to the eggs that you have available. Here's an excellent one. Muscovy ducks. If you're looking for something that can survive on its own, Muscovy duck isn't actually genetically a duck. It's a South American waterfowl. So these are not, Muscovies have not been selectively bred for production characteristics. They are wild. That hen will come and bite your face. I mean, if you pick up one of them babies, she's going to come after you. And she hatched that brood out. I mean, those are all her from one brood that she hatched out, and those babies will follow around all over the farm. Of course, you got to deal with predation, but of all the fowl that we've had on the farm, Muscovy ducks are definitely what we recommend to people that want to free range and they want something that will take care of themselves, breed on their own, raise their own young, and actually produce. The males actually get fairly big and produce quite a bit of meat. This is ugly, all right, so don't judge. But this is our first experience with winter farrowing. This little hut here was built on a couple of oak trees that I had cut down. Threw some plywood up over it, screwed the plywood to a log there, threw some hay on that. This picture is in January in Wisconsin. 2 sows crawled in there, farrowed together, and it was 20 below. All right, not exactly a lot of wind chill on this side of the woods, but they raised out 16 piglets between the two of them in 20 below weather. So there's no heat lamp, there's no assisting, there's no crawling in there with 2 sows that have babies and trying to assist because you might get killed. But this was an aha moment for us where we realized that we don't need to be trying to keep to this rigid schedule of, we have to only breed during certain months of the year because if we're farrowing outside in the woods or on pasture, that these piglets are going to die. Everyone's telling us, oh, your piglets are going to die out there. These girls did great, and we're like, well, let's just breed year round and try and maximize the amount of litters that we can have every year. Also, we then have a steady supply of piglets where it's not just such a rush of, here's all of your piglets in the spring and then a whole bunch of piglets in the fall. And what do you do with 100, 150 piglets in the fall when you don't have a market? Well, we found out, we took them down to Equity Livestock Exchange and they sent us a check for $7.50 a piglet. So that was another aha moment where you're better off just giving them away. Well, we got to add some cuteness because the wife was helping me put this together. Small pigs can be used in sensitive plantations, especially where you have a perennial crop that's deep-rooted, that these piglets will go down these center rows where that dirt is soft, and they'll go through and turn that all up. They do wreck your rhubarb a little bit. I believe this is would be a second picking, so we've already went through, picked it once. We filled all of our orders. We didn't have any more orders left, and we decided, well, let's see what happens if we turn some piglets loose in there. Innovation is a key to any small farm. Not all of you are small farmers, but if you're getting going, you always have to be looking to, not just to one-up yourself. Whatever you did last year, that worked. Okay, you might be successful in all of those ventures you had last year, but you're never going to get better without attempting something new to, how do I make sure I keep the weeds down my rhubarb? Let's turn some little piglets loose and see if they can do it for me. So, not proud of this. The green you see there is a Siberian peaberry, which is now invasive or considered invasive. We haven't experienced that, but the Siberian peaberry is a hardy perennial that, it's Siberian, so it'll grow in Wisconsin, no problem. But it does produce an actual, like a pea pod, and they taste like soybeans, like you crack it open and eat it. So it's one of the things that was brought over with the Eastern European immigrants, that they established it as a food source for themselves, but now would work as not just for native, but if you were planting this as a hedgerow for your chickens or your ducks, that they'd be able to eat this seasonally. I don't know what bird eggs, but they decided to make a little nest there right in our little peaberry patch. Rhubarb. So here we are with a weekend's harvest of rhubarb. And like I was saying before, we're yielding a pound of rhubarb per square foot. And if we're wholesaling this at $2 a pound, we're getting $2 a square foot in our rhubarb plantations. It did take a little bit to establish a market for this and get to the point where we can actually take a pickup truck load of this and take it to someone else. And we are working on other available markets for juice, because it's obviously difficult for you take this to a winery and they've got to press this out and go through all that, where you could value add this and it'd be easier to ship the juice. And I've done the research on this. You could add 100,000 acres of rhubarb in the United States, and there would still be space for more rhubarb to be grown as long as you're turning this into juice. Because I worked over the road. I hauled lots of stuff in the back of the refrigerated trailer. One of the things I was hauling around was juice concentrate. We've had breweries approach us about adding this to they make a summer shandy. And what they're using is like a citrus. And they have to source this citrus juice or citrus flavor somewhere else, where here you could be growing this locally and providing the same exact product and have it not be grown out in California. Nothing against anyone from California? Wisconsin, so I mean they're now the dairy state, so I'm got a sore spot about this. This was not seeded. We did not seed this. This is native seed bank. And after you take your hogs and run through an area, this blew my mind. this came up and I'm just like, how, why? Where did, how long does clover seed persist in the ground, and where does it all come from? So this is something that I'd like someone smarter than me to tell me about, how this happened. But this is an excellent example of how you can till soil and come out the other side with something that is much more beneficial than the ragweed and goldenrod that was in here. Are you with the county? So we imported pigs, and we do these red wattle. It's a rare breed of pig, and we've also imported into the state of Wisconsin mulefoots and Chinese Meishan. And Wisconsin has a testing that is different than any other state. So you call to buy your hog, you have them get a hold of their vet, they fill out a certificate of veterinary inspection, they call the state of Wisconsin to make sure it's done right, send it in, and then we get this in the mail. All right, then they come out to our farm and put us under quarantine. All right, and they say, bad Ryan, do better next time. So just be aware that if you're moving pigs from state to state, that it is on you to make sure that that stuff is done correctly, regardless of what the vet in the other state said. You get on the phone, you call your state veterinary, you call them, get them on a conference call, and be like, hey, is all this stuff done correctly? We brought pigs to Virginia this time, but last year we brought them to West Virginia, which requires a blood test for brucellosis and pseudorabies. So our vet had to come out, and we're sticking these pigs in the neck to draw blood to send it out, and obviously that raises the cost of taking pigs to West Virginia. Maybe that's why they're calling me in Wisconsin trying to get someone to import them for them. Box elder. So this is a fast-growing tree in Wisconsin that pigs can't really kill off. And we have this inoculated with oyster mushrooms. Oysters are not what I would recommend. They're the easiest to start with, and obviously they grow on just about everything: box elder, poplar, maple, or really they will grow anywhere, but they go bad very quickly. These look fresh,